The first sign is always a sound. For Ethan, it was the screeching, drawn-out music of an old carnival suddenly blasting from the speakers of his expensive laptop in the silence of his luxury apartment. All the lights went out, and on the screen, just one word was typed in a red clown-like font: "Come back." For Mia, struggling with death on the night shift at the emergency room, it was the sound of a small, manic laugh echoing from the hospital intercom, a voice only she could hear. For Leo, on the stage of a comedy club, the laughing faces of the audience turned, for just a split second, into the plaster, soulless masks of clowns, with smiles stretched all the way to their ears. They had tried for 20 years to forget that summer, the summer that ended in their small town, Harmony Falls, with a blunt oath, an oath that if he ever returned, they would return too. Now, he was back. The four friends met at the entrance of their town, a town that looked like it was frozen in time. The shops had their shutters down, and a heavy silence ruled the streets. Ethan, Mia, and Leo, with faces carved by 20 years of hard living, looked at the only one who had never left the town: Chloe. Chloe's house was a gallery of their nightmares. Her walls were covered in charcoal drawings, dozens of sketches of a tall, thin creature in a carnival clown suit, with hands that were unnaturally long and fingers sharp as needles. His face was always in shadow, but his smile, that smile was always visible. Chloe spoke with a voice that sounded like it came from the bottom of a well. He never left. He was just waiting for you to get old enough so your fears would get big enough. The terror started that very night, but not with a physical attack. Mister Pinwheel was playing with their minds. Ethan, who had been terrified of tight spaces since childhood, got trapped in the narrow hallway of Chloe's house. The walls started closing in, the patterned wallpaper rippling like living skin, choking the breath out of him. Mia, in the bathroom mirror, saw the corpse of the first patient who had died in her hands instead of her own reflection. With eyes wide open and that same clown-like smile on his face, they woke from these deadly hallucinations screaming, their hearts pounding in their chests. They realized that running away was no longer an option. The only way out was to attack. They had to go into his territory, the abandoned amusement park, Pinwheel's Wonderland. The place where, 20 years ago, they had found something that drove him back. A small, dark piece of meteorite hidden in the basement of the park's control room. That night, under the light of a sick moon, they climbed over the rusty fences of the amusement park. The sound of the Ferris wheel creaking in the wind was like the moan of a ghost. Their first destination was the House of Mirrors. As soon as they entered, the door slammed shut behind them with a loud bang. Dozens of twisted images of themselves reflected in the dirty mirrors. Suddenly, their reflections began to move, independent of them. Ethan's reflection whispered with an icy voice, "You always disappoint everyone." Mia's reflection said with empty eyes, "You cannot save everyone." Mister Pinwheel had separated them and was attacking them with their greatest fears. Leo, who was always afraid of being ridiculed, saw his reflection pointing at him with manic laughter. He screamed, "No more!" and punched the mirror. The glass shattered with a loud crash. This was the escape route. They started frantically smashing the mirrors, each one screaming as they destroyed their fears to find a way out. They stumbled out, wounded and gasping for air, but their path to the control room led through the ghost train. They climbed into the small, dusty wagon. The train jerked forward with a violent shake, plunging into the heart of darkness. The mechanical dolls that were once designed to scare children had now come to life. A plastic skeleton with metal claws lunged at Mia. A giant spider lowered from the ceiling, spitting sticky webs at Leo. This was not a game. It was a hunt. They fought the monsters frantically with iron bars they had ripped from the wagon, until the train stopped at the final station with an ear-piercing screech. They reached the control room, but the basement was locked. And then, a shadow fell over them. Mr. Pinwheel was there. He was standing on top of the giant Ferris wheel. He no longer looked like a clown. He had grown taller. His clothes had turned into black ribbons, and his face was a white, cracked mask with a carved smile and eyes that were like two black, empty holes. He spoke with a voice that sounded like metal dragging on glass. "The game is ending, kids." And then, with a wave of his hand, the cabin where the friends had hidden 20 years ago was ripped from the top and came crashing down toward the ground with terrifying speed. They ran for their lives. Ethan knew this was a distraction. He shouted, "You keep him busy. I am going for the stone." Mia and Leo, with a courage born of desperation, charged at the monster. Meanwhile, Ethan and Chloe smashed the lock on the basement door and sprinted down. There it was, on a stone pedestal, that same small, dark meteorite. Ethan picked it up. He felt nothing. It was just a cold piece of rock. When they returned upstairs, the scene was horrific. Mr. Pinwheel had grabbed Mia and Leo with his long arms, lifting them off the ground. He was devouring their fear. Ethan screamed, "Hey!" Pinwheel spun toward him. His smile grew wider. "That stone won't help you anymore. You are not those fearless children anymore." And he was right. The stone wasn't working. Ethan looked at his friends, at their terrified faces. And then he remembered. 20 years ago, they didn't fear him. They laughed at him. Ethan spoke with a trembling but firm voice. You are ridiculous." Pinwheel paused for a moment. Leo, who was choking, used his last breath to tell a joke. A stupid joke about clowns. Mia remembered how she used to mimic him as a child, making everyone laugh. They started laughing, first quietly and then louder. They were laughing at the absurdity and the ridiculousness of this monster. And then it happened. With every laugh, Pinwheel's power drained away. His hands started to shake. His face mask cracked. He screamed, but it was no longer the voice of an ancient monster. It was the voice of a weak, terrified creature. He was no longer a clown. His body began to shift. His tattered clothes fell away, revealing gray, hard, stone-like skin. Two twisted black horns burst from his head, and his eyes became two pits of fire. This was his true form, an ancient demon. But even this demon was weak against their lack of fear. The monster lunged at them with all his remaining strength, but it was too late. Ethan, with the meteorite in hand, ran forward. The stone was now glowing from within, not with its own power, but with their courage. He slammed the stone into the monster's chest with everything he had. A blinding light exploded. The monster, with a scream that sounded like it came from the depths of hell, began to disintegrate. His body turned into black dust and scattered in the wind. The four friends, wounded and exhausted, stood in the first light of sunrise. The amusement park behind them, in silence, was crumbling. They looked at each other, A tired but real smile was on their faces. Monsters are real, but they only have as much power as our fear gives them. And sometimes, to kill a monster, you just have to remember how to laugh.